Okay, Barry, I want you to prepare yourself here because I'm going to show you three very important objects today. Now, these artifacts form the trifecta, the balance of powers, if you will. If only one of these objects were to be removed, the entire foundation of reality and everything would fall apart. You guys already know exactly what I'm going to show him. I know that for a fact, but Barry just came into existence like, what, 2.5 weeks ago? I need to bring him up to speed on a lot of this stuff. Okay, are you ready? All right, here we go. The first object. The rock. The second object. The scissors. And the third object. The paper. These three form a perfect balance that cannot be shattered even by the mightiest nuclear weapon. So, we must be extraordinarily careful to maintain the balance. Alright, so that was a metaphor, get it? Metaphor for the balance of powers in One Piece. We're going to be talking about that today, and we're also going to be talking about how much of a significant thing that, holy crap, Kaido and Big Mom are together! They got it on! Well, maybe they didn't get it on, but they probably got it on. But they definitely got a alliance on, alright? That's one thing we can be assured of right now. Also, possibly they were married at one point because Big Mom was mentioning an anniversary, so we'll get to that, okay? But before we can even get to the alliance itself between Big Mom, Charlotte Linlin, and Kaido, I guess that's his real name, Kaido. Let's just talk about the balance of powers. Now, the balance of powers in One Piece, I believe, was first mentioned by Yosaku. This was around the same time when we first found out about Mihawk at the Baratier, and the crew was traveling to Arlong Park. Yosaku was kind of giving them, basically, exposition. He was explaining the concept of the Warlords to Luffy and Sanji, and I think in that conversation, he also mentioned the three great powers. He's like, the Warlords of the Shichibukai, they're part of the three great powers, all right? The three great powers are thus the Marines, the Yonko, and the Warlords. Okay, now you might be saying there, it was like, well, what about the world government? Aren't they significant? Yes, they are significant, but keep in mind, the world government itself, like most of the power of the government, at least its influence in the world, comes from the Marines and the Warlords, okay? They kind of have reign over that, so that's where the world government comes in play here. And also, the Gorosei are very attuned to how this whole thing plays out, okay? Their goal is to either maintain that equilibrium of the balance or figure out a way to, you know, spin it in their favor. It's actually very likely that the Warlord system was even created so it would better counterbalance the Yonko. Alright, because the Yonko are obviously not controlled by the world government. They're their own thing. They're not even an organization in and of themselves. You know, an alliance between the Yonko is not very common. That's why Big Mom and Kaido getting together now is such a big deal. Normally, the Yonko are each independent of one another, and they have really strong empires, or they roll over their countries, and they have really large crews, and they're kind of each trying to become the greatest pirates in the world. Maybe not like Shanks. I don't really see Shanks being interested in that. Like, I'm gonna defeat all of their pirates and go and claim the One Piece. That doesn't seem to be Shanks' goal, but that's definitely Big Mom and Kaido's goal. Blackbeard seems to me like he just kind of wants to wipe out everybody so he could be the king, so I guess that's also sort of his goal as well. But the point is here, you have the Yonko, these four ridiculously strong pirates in the New World, so the world government basically was like, we need to figure out a way to counterbalance this as much as possible. Now, I'm sure the Marines have been around for centuries, okay, because that's like their military arm of the world government. They've been around for a while. The Warlords, on the other hand, they probably haven't been around for that long. If you take what the movie, or not the movie, but the OVA 3D2Y, if you take that to be canon, there was a line in there that Burn D. World said he didn't know what the Warlords were, and he's been locked up for, I think, 30 or something years, so I think it was his brother that actually had to explain to Burn D. World, you know, what the concept of the Warlord system was. So it hasn't been around for that long. So I think what the world government, what the Gorosei were seeing were, okay, the Yonko are gathering a lot of power, and I don't think the Marines are going to be powerful enough to fight back. I mean, there's other, things that the world government controls, like the cipher poles and all that stuff, but it's just like their combined military force is kind of not winning out against the Yonko. So that's probably why they introduced the Warlord system. Now, something else very important to mention about this balance of power, okay? It is not an even 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 split, okay? It's not like the paper, rock, scissors paradigm we have over here, where each object holds equal power, okay? No. It's been stated that the Yonko are about equal in power to the other two. So instead of like a 33.3% split all around, think of it like the Yonko have 50% of this pie chart, the Marines are 25%, and the Warlords are the other 25%. Maybe that number might not be accurate. Maybe it might be better to say that the Marines have like 35% and the Warlords are 15%. It doesn't matter. What matters is that the Yonko as a body are equal in power to the other two bodies combined. Now that statement is if all the Yonko, like, together as a body, that's how strong they are in the world, okay? If the Yonko managed to reconcile their differences and they all came together, like if there was a Yonko meeting between, well, Blackbeard wouldn't really fit in with this whole paradigm because Blackbeard's more chaotic, but let's talk about during Whitebeard's era. If the Yonko all got together and reconciled their differences, Shanks, Whitebeard, Big Mom, and Kaido, the world would be theirs. Like, it wouldn't even take that long. Like, they would wipe out the Marines, they would wipe out the Warlords if they all figured out a way to work together under a common interest. Obviously, that did not happen. Whitebeard, died, of course, and now Blackbeard's there. I don't see Blackbeard getting along with the other Yonko in that way, especially not Shanks. But the point is, all these four Yonko together, they're really strong compared to the Marines. That's why, like, at Marineford, obviously the Marines wanted to execute Fire Fist Ace, but I think the Marines were also thinking, like, hey, if Whitebeard's gonna come up to Marineford and we can manage to take out Whitebeard, that's one of the Yonko that drops dead, and the balance of power shifts a little bit more in the world government's favor. And that's all the Gorosei usually are doing. They're chilling out in their room of authority, and they're always worried about the balance of power, okay? Either trying to maintain the equilibrium so it's as even as it can be, or they're going to try to wipe out the Yonko so they can gain more power with the Marines and the Warlord system, okay? Now, the Warlord system also has problems. I mean, look at what happened with Crocodile, look what happened with Doflamingo, kind of going behind the government's back and doing some other kind of operations there. So, hey, it's very possible that they might abolish the Warlord system at Reverie. Fujitora is a very big proponent of that. Maybe Fujitora has an option to replace the Warlords with some kind of device or weapon that Vegapunk invented. Like, hey, listen, we don't even need the Warlords to maintain the balance of power anymore. Vegapunk invented this new thing. It's called a, hold on here. I'm blind, but I'm just gonna look up this note. Freaking Green Bull, come over here and explain it, whispered in my ear here. Oh yeah, it's called a hydrogen bomb. Yes, so Vegapunk invented this thing called a hydrogen bomb, and I'm pretty sure this thing is about equally, if not stronger, than the Warlords combined. So we'll replace the Warlords with this new weapon Vegapunk created, and the balance of power will maintain. In fact, it might even give more power to the Marines. That's going to be probably the solid pitch. If Fujitora is going to come out and address the kings of Reverie, or if he's going to address the Gorosei in some way, trying to abolish the Warlord system, if he can offer an alternative to that is stronger than the Warlords, that might shift that balance of power a little bit more, then the Gorosei and the kings and stuff, they might go along with it, because that's kind of the whole point, right? Not to let the Yonko take over the world and, beat down the Marines and the world government, right? Now, Marineford didn't really work out the way that they planned it, because while Whitebeard did in fact die there, and they're like, okay, awesome, we took out one of the Yonko. Not really, because Blackbeard's the one that showed up and took out Whitebeard, and then he did the unprecedented and stole Whitebeard's devil fruit, and then quickly, very quickly took his position up as the next Yonko. So yeah, that normally should not happen. It should not be that easy to replace a Yonko, but it's just Blackbeard had been planning this for decades, and he ended up getting his hands on 2 ridiculously OP devil fruits, and he ended up fooling the Marines once again by utilizing the Warlord system. He cheated the system, and he got into Impel Down, and he freed all these prisoners. So if, like, let's say Big Mom were to drop dead, like, replacing her as a Yonko is not easy. Not any random pirate, even like Katakuri. Katakuri cannot just decree himself as the new Yonko and everyone would be like, yeah, okay, he's every bit as terrifying as Big Mom was. No, that normally does not happen, alright? The fact that, you know, Blackbeard had this plan for years and years and years, so as soon as Whitebeard died, he could pretty much just take that power vacuum and just suck it all up in his darkness. Also an awesome metaphor, or was an analogy, whichever, and then he took up the position as the next Yonko, and the world is even kind of worse off now. So, yeah, that didn't really work out as they planned it, and in fact, if we were just going by the power of all the Yonko right now, you know, with Blackbeard being there and everything, then you have the whole deal with Kaido and Orochi at Wano. I mean, Big Mom just got defeated by Luffy, and then Luffy right now is considered the 5th Emperor, kind of tentatively. I would say definitely the Yonko power balance, if it's like that 50% split of the world, it's getting a little bit more, it's inching more into the dominant region of controlling the world, okay? Which brings us to the most recent chapter. So that was just the backstory about how important that balance is, and now we have the main issue. We have Big Mom and Kaido forming this alliance at Wano, and we don't really know about their plans yet, or really what they're going to do, like actually sit down and what they're like going to do. That wasn't a sexual joke. I was talking about sitting down at like a war table and like laying down their plans, but you could take it sexual if you want. I can't tell you how to think. So anyway, yeah, we know that their plans, like, in general, we know what they are. You know, they're getting together, and Kaido and Big Mom, and they're like, we're forming an alliance! We'll take over the world, and then we'll, like, worry about, you know, who's gonna survive after that. You know, because they still kind of don't really like each other, or they probably don't like each other around for very long, because they did have some sort of relationship back in the day, probably on Rox's crew. Big Mom mentioned some kind of anniversary between them, and so if that's the case, they were probably together for a little while, and then something happened which made them split up, you know, and then I'm thinking they're back together right now, but that same thing that split them up all those years ago might rear its ugly head again, whatever that happened to be. Maybe they're just, like, incompatible with each other, they don't like their personalities, they just clash, or maybe there was another reason why they split up. Maybe it's like when they come down to, like, splitting the loot, you know, they got into a fight and they just split up there. So there's a reason why they divided and they're back, so this isn't like an absolute, like, it's not like a super glued alliance, it's more like Elmer's glue right now, so it could still break apart, it really could. But if they were able to reconcile their differences, that statement that they made about taking over the world, that's not something that's absurd. Because taking over the world, like, you got a lot of obstacles you need to tackle first, okay? But not as many as you might think. If, number one, you gotta take out the Marines, because the Marines are the military. If you can take out the main military, the only real military in the world that the government controls, if you can wipe out their strongest fighters, if you could take out the admirals and the fleet admirals, I mean, the Marines are pretty much crippled at that point. I mean, most of the Marines, I mean, they have a lot of quantity, but how about their quality? I mean, there's a lot of random soldiers running around and stuff, but that's nothing to, like, Yonko, and that's nothing to, like, you know, the Calamities or the Sweet Commanders or anything. Katakuri could beat the crap probably out of any Marine captain or Commodore. When you start getting up into the Vice Admirals and the Admiral classes, that's when it starts becoming like a real fight here. So if they could take out those guys first, not a big deal for the rest of it, right? And look at what happened with Whitebeard. Whitebeard rocked up to Marineford. Look at what Sengoku did. He was there, all 3 admirals were there, all 7 warlords were there, sans Jinbei at the time because he went over to the other side. You had all the vice admirals, the giant squadron, like the Marines pulled their strongest warriors just to fight one Yonko. Granted, Whitebeard was considered the strongest man in the world, alright? So, you know, even amongst the Yonko, he was highly revered and stuff, right? But still, they pulled out all the stops against Whitebeard and his allies. And keep in mind, the Yonko aren't just limited to their own fleets. Big Mom has allies, Kaido has other allies, I'm sure, that work under him, like the Hawkins pirates and all that stuff. So you got to deal with more than just one pirate fleet here. Even like the big Yonko fleet, you also have other fleets to deal with, right? So that's why the Marines were so like dead set on like, we need to bring every single person we have to this battle, all right? And at the end of the day, the Marines, you know, they did manage to execute Ace. You know, Sakazuki executed Ace. Then Blackbeard showed up and took out Whitebeard. But even without Blackbeard's interference, just from what the Marines did to Whitebeard alone, I mean, granted, he was sick at the time, but he was pretty banged up. I mean, I don't even know, like, let's say Blackbeard did not interfere. Let's say Blackbeard didn't even show up at Marineford at all. Like, Whitebeard still had 2 holes punched through his chest and half of his face melted off by Akainu. I'm feeling like even if they would have gotten out of that situation alive, like if Whitebeard left Marineford still alive, I have a feeling he wouldn't be able to live much longer after that. I feel like he would have died eventually from those wounds and his already pre-existing illness, right? So it's like, all right, so the Marines all together, plus the Warlords all together, they put a pretty big sizable dent in one of the Yonko fleets. They took out a lot of Whitebeard's ships. They burned his flagship. You know, I don't think any of the commanders died. Jozu lost an arm, but it was certainly an even match there for a while. It's just before Blackbeard showed up, it looked like the Marines were edging out the Whitebeard crew a little bit. It did seem like that. Well, not even the Marines plus the Warlords. You got 2 of the great powers against 1/4 of the Yonko, and it looked like the Marines and the Warlords together, they were pushing back the Whitebeard crew a little bit there, okay? So what happens if 2 Yonko, though, rocked up to Marineford? Because that was that whole concern the day before, Shanks meeting up with Kaido. They were really freaking out about that. Like, we cannot allow Shanks and Kaido to meet. And so that was a big concern, because if they got together, not even like if they formed an alliance, just the act of 2 Yonko fighting would result in a huge war that would result in like so much collateral damage, it would be insane. Like, whatever island they were on would probably just get destroyed. So it's also trying, the world government's in their best interest to try to like, hey, play peacemaker a little bit here, or at least try to divide them so they don't encounter each other. You know, like, oh shit, Shanks is going to go see Kaido. Okay, Kuzan, you go intercept Shanks. Aokiji, you go intercept Kaido. At least try to stall their fleets out a little bit so they don't run into each other, because if they meet each other, it's gonna be like a bomb. It's gonna be ground zero, okay? By the way, we still don't know how that interchange went between Shanks and Kaido. We don't even know if Kaido actually met with Shanks at that moment, okay? Just keep that in mind. We had that big moment where Shanks showed up at Marineford, and it's like, but he only met Kaido yesterday! How could he have gotten here so quickly? And Shanks, his ship didn't seem battle damaged. None of his crew looked like they'd been in a serious fight. So it might not have even been Kaido. It might have been one of his representatives. It might have been King or Queen that went to go, like, negotiate something with Shanks, and Shanks kind of said, no, let me handle this. And they were like, okay, fine. And then it might have been something as simple as that. There might have been a fight. It's just, I'm just saying, Shanks rocked up to Marineford and there was no injuries on his crew or on his ship. So he seemed like there wasn't really a big fight with Kaido at that moment. I know we like to see this moment where Shanks is brawling with a dragon and he cuts him down, or he beats down Kaido and he's like, no, I'm handling this. And Kaido's like, okay, fine. I don't think that might have happened. It would have been cool, but I don't think that's how that went down, okay? So, if they take out the Marines, though, then who else you have to deal with? Well, you have to deal with the Warlords, too. But keep in mind here, the Warlords are sort of a motley crew. They are not as loyal to the world government as the Marines are. Certainly not as much as, like, the Admirals are, okay? You can't just expect the Warlords to defend the world government. I'm pretty sure for a lot of the Warlords, if they notice that the Marines are getting beat down by a Yonko alliance, by Big Mom and Kaido's alliance, and it's like, the world government's in danger of falling, I can imagine a lot of them just booking. Now, you know, Kuma, PX0, he's a robot, and he's apparently programmed to work under the world government, so that's kind of like he would stick around. I don't see freaking Mihawk sticking around for that. I don't see Mihawk. Mihawk would only show up if he was personally interested, which this might personally interest him, like, a chance to test Yoru against a might of 2 Yonko at once, But then again, Mihawk's not an idiot, so he might be like, Yeah, you know what, world government, you're on your own here. I'm not. I guess I resign from the Warlords, whatever, later. Not like they could do anything to enforce it. If the Marines were completely destroyed or on the cusp of being destroyed, it's not like they could worry about the Warlords jumping ship. Buggy might be able to help them out. Buggy actually might be able to twist that balance of power to his favor, but I just don't think Buggy is loyal enough to the world government for that. So I think Buggy would just go off and create his own faction, and that would serve as the new balance of power. Buggy could effectively replace the Marines and the Warlords if he wanted to, and also half of the Yonko, but he just chooses not to because that would be too easy for him, But I don't think Buggy would help them out. Boa wouldn't. Absolutely not. Boa would probably, because she's already at odds with the world government. Boa Hancock would look at like, oh, the Marines are burning down. Okay, well, good. That means we can just live on our island and nobody can bother us from now on. I'm freed from this crap. Screw it. I was never a part of this to begin with, really. I just did it so that our island would be safe. But now that, okay, fine, whatever. We can handle ourselves. So Boa wouldn't help out. Doflamingo's in prison. Weevil does not seem like somebody that would help out. Or rather, his mother would not order him to help out. Because that's not really his goal there. Or his mother's. Who else do we got? Law's no longer part of the Warlords. Yeah, I mean, really, we don't really have many other options here. I think after upon seeing the threat that they pose, the Yonko together, I think the Warlords would just drop their loyalty to the world government and leave. Crocodile, even, he's smart enough, he wouldn't do anything like that, okay? After you accomplish that, I mean, you take down the Marines. Afterwards, you have the Cypher Poles, they're pretty strong, but I think two Yonko working together against, Lucci and Kaku and Stussy, I think the Alliance is going to win there. You got some other really strong, high-ranking officials, you got, Kong and stuff, and I'm sure there's, a Royal Guard for the Gorosei that might be really strong and crap like that, but overall, you've accomplished the hardest task, is beating down the Marines, and then, you could probably have, I can imagine, Big Mom and Kaido rocking up to Marijois, and it's like, what are you gonna do? What do you got, really? You got some strong people. You got Sengoku, you got Garp, you got Kong that could put up a fight. It would probably honestly come down to those kind of battles. It would come down to a battle of here's Kaido and here's Big Mom, two of the strongest characters. Then you also have Garp and Sengoku and Kong there. They're some of the strongest characters in the series, and it would really just come down to a brawl between those parties. Whoever wins. But it's not looking good. It's a lot more of a at risk here than you'd think. But let's say they were able to succeed with that. At that point, if you conquer Marijois, you've pretty much taken over the world, right? After that point, you just have your own fleets to work together, and let's say you might recruit other people along the way. Big Mom and Kaido might ask others to join their alliance, and they might gain more power. Some of the Warlords might even go over to the Yonko cause. They might realize it's just hey, it's better to be over here than over here. I'm going to ally with you guys instead of you guys. They would approach Boa. Big Mom would be like, Boa Hancock, the Pirate Empress. You have two choices. You can either stand with us, the Alliance, or we will burn Amazon Lily to the ground with our Yonko might. Doesn't really have much of a choice in that point. Boa would have to go along with she might be a bit snarky about it, but two Yonko fleets breathing down her neck, she doesn't really have many other options there. She would have to ally with them. Now, Mihawk, Mihawk seems like the kind of dude, I don't even think, honestly, Big Mom or Kaido want to rock up to Mihawk unprepared. Because I think if, Big Mom just walked up to Mihawk and just, Dracul Mihawk, we will fight now, and I will beat you. I'm pretty sure Mihawk could deal out some damage on either of them. All right, it would be a hard fight, especially if they rock out with their whole fleets behind them. They got the Sweet Commanders behind them, the Calamities behind them, the Beast Pirates, the Big Mom Pirates, and then Kaido and Big Mom are out in front. Mihawk's face down with all of that. I think Mihawk might be able to get a single shot off on him. He might be able to draw some blood, but I don't think he would win against that oppressive force. And Mihawk doesn't even have a crew. He doesn't even have allies. He's just, well, maybe Shanks. But, oh, man, Shanks and freaking Mihawk tag teaming against Yonko. That would be awesome. But yeah, the point is here, getting back to the main premise here, yeah, the Marines and the Warlords, they would be separated. The only issue would be the other Yonko. That's also what it would come down to there between that. If it's like with the Marines, the fighting would come down to like Garp and Sengoku and Kong and Sakazuki, like the strongest member of the Marines. If they managed to get past that hurdle, then it would be the Yonko. Then it would be like Shanks and Blackbeard, probably not together. In fact, I could even kind of see Blackbeard kind of hanging in the background being like, okay, here's how we're going to play this. I'm going to have, I'm going to see what Shanks is going to do first. Because Shanks' crew fighting against an alliance between Big Mom and Kaido. Shanks might not be able to win that. Even if he does, he'll be supremely battle damaged. I'm going to hang back here, and then when Shanks is weakened, because Blackbeard and Shanks would never work together. Never. You have a better shot, honestly, of Shanks teaming up with Mihawk and Garp and Sengoku than you have a better shot than Shanks teaming up with Blackbeard to fight against the other. That won't happen in a million years. Like, it just won't. So, but if it's like really that dire and the Marines really have been beaten down that bad and some of the Warlords have went over to that Yonko side, Shanks might recruit Mihawk. I think they might work together because they have a history with each other. And then Garp and Sengoku, Sakazuki in particular would be really against that. He's like, working with a damn Yonko. But I guess, it's like if Big Mom and Kaido take over the world, it would all fall apart. So for the sake of maintaining justice for right now, the Marines and Red Hair Shanks have to form an alliance to fight against Kaido and Big Mom's alliance. That's probably honestly the closest thing I can think of to what would actually go down. Some of the Warlords would scatter, some would work together with Shanks. The Marines, if they were beat down hard enough, they might even work together with Shanks, and then Blackbeard might just stay off to the side. Or maybe Blackbeard, because he's a sly mofo. Here's what Blackbeard might do. Blackbeard might try to infiltrate the alliance between Kaido and Big Mom and try to like, hey, Kaido, I hear Big Mom said this about you. Can you believe that? Oh, hey, Big Mom, I heard Kaido did this. I'm like, crazy, isn't it? And then they like kind of look at each other because maybe Blackbeard would be able to tell like their alliance is kind of thin. So it's like, I might be able to screw with this if I play my cards right. So that might be also something Blackbeard would pull, so yeah. But just the statement alone, two Yonko working together could conquer the world. But my point is here, just the statement of them getting together, two Yonko, and conquering the world, it's not a 100% guaranteed thing, but it's not impossible. It's not like a ridiculous statement. It does have the realms of possibility if they manage to work together really well and cooperate. So that brings us to now the talk about their anniversary, okay? So they talk about, Big Mom mentions that the anniversary is the same day as the Fire Festival. That alone is too much of a coincidence for me to just look over. I'm like, this big festival at Wano where Kaido and all the Beast Pirates and Orochi, they get together and just booze it up. That's the same day as this anniversary. It could have been the anniversary from when Kaido and Big Mom first met. It could have been the anniversary for an actual wedding. They were together, which, by the way, if that's the case, Katakuri and Oven and Daifuku are all the children of Kaido and Big Mom. I made a video about that like I think last year, and I'm like, I would really like this to be the case just because Kaido has black hair, Big Mom has pink hair, Katakuri sort of has red hair, dark red magenta hair. They're really tall, I'm just saying it would make sense, so it might be a wedding anniversary. Could be the anniversary from when they first boned. Could be the anniversary for maybe back before they were both Yonko. They were well known in the world as a Yonko. Maybe they did work together. Maybe they did form an alliance like 30, 40 years ago. Maybe after the Rocks crew dismantled, the Big Mom and Kaido formed an alliance. But then after they got strong enough, they kind of went their separate ways, or there was a difference between them, and they got separated there, and then they eventually became Yonko in their own respects. It could be very much something like that. Now, what would the significance be of the same date of the Fire Festival? Well, I don't know how long the Fire Festival has been a tradition in the land of Wano. It could have been for a long time, or it could have been... Well, the way Kinemon talked about it, like it really had been a thing that was around before Kaido's time. So maybe it is just a coincidence, but I don't think Oda does these things just... There might be a relation there between them. Like, it might just be not just the Fire Festival, maybe it's just the time of the year for, like, festivals in Wano. Like, right now, it's late August, beginning of September. Like, this is the time of year where there's a lot of fairs and festivals, at least in the United States, right? So it might be something in the time of year where the Fire Festival is, that's just the festival time of the year everywhere. And so because of that festival time, there's another connection between Big Mom and Kaido. Because I'm pretty sure the Fire Festival existed before Kaido showed up. But if it didn't, if Kaido arrived at Wano 20-something years ago, or 20 years ago, and then he began the Fire Festival from that day forward, maybe Kaido started the Fire Festival on that day because he remembers, like, this is my wedding anniversary, and I was really happy back then, but it all went to crap, so we're just gonna party the night away for me to forget about it. Glug, glug, glug. You know, it might be some deal like that, right? But yeah, this theory about them being together, I mean, that's been out there for a while. Like I said, I did the video about that, of them actually having kids together. But if they didn't have kids together, if she's not talking about that kind of anniversary, it's probably just the anniversary from when they met on Rox's crew. And we're probably going to get a backstory to this and everything. Like, I'm interested in their backstory, obviously, like, what kind of relationship they did have, but I'm more interested in what they're going to do with the Alliance, and how the Straw Hats are going to be able to beat them back, okay? Personally, I think the Alliance isn't going to last very long. I think it's an interesting concept. If they really did work together, and like chocolate and peanut butter, which one's chocolate and which one's peanut butter in this context? Big Mom is definitely chocolate. Definitely chocolate. So Kaido is a peanut butter dragon. But if they really did work together in that perfect unison, like Luffy and the Straw Hats and the Rebel Alliance. The Rebel Alliance, they don't have a chance if they work that well together. Like, if the Big Mom crew and the Sweet Commanders and Beast Pirates and the Calamities and the Headliners and everybody worked perfectly in tandem, like, you had tag battles where you had, like, Smoothie teaming up with Queen and they were, like, in perfect sync, like, then I don't think they would be able to win. But it's not like that. It's extremely unbalanced. And I can probably imagine a lot of the Beast Pirates are not going to get along with the Big Mom Pirates. I kind of want to see the interactions there, sort of. I kind of want to see, like, there's a mixer at Onigashima, like, they put up a big banner that's like, the new Big Mom Kaido Pirate Alliance, mixing dinner, the ceremonial dinner, and you just cut to all these random scenes, like, you got Sparrow there, licking a candy cane right next to, King, or something, and he's just, so, you're like the number one soldier here. King's just like, I guess so. Like, well, I'm Big Mom's first son. Not really as strong as I used to be, but, Want a candy cane? King's just like, I do not. That would be awkward. Get to see freaking Big Jack. Jack's up there just sitting against the wall like the lonely kid during a middle school dance, sipping his punch. No one wants to talk to him. That's all that is. Nobody even approaches Jack. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit. And then you have Queen, and maybe Queen, like, I can see Queen maybe getting along with some members of the Big Mom crew. Maybe not, like, Katakuri or Oven. Who's, like, the party animal? Maybe Cracker. Cracker I could see. Cracker's, like, doing his dance, creating a bunch of his Cracker soldiers, and Queen's like, oh, yeah, that's funky. Yeah, let's keep dancing. And he makes the Cracker soldiers dance with Queen. Like, that would be kind of cool. But I think mostly it would be very awkward. Like, it would be kind of like a middle school dance, where it's like all the Big Mom pirates are on one side, all the Beast Pirates are on this other side. They're all wearing their Viking furs and their hats with horns on it, and then all the Big Mom crew are wearing like candy outfits and like food aesthetics and stuff, and they're just like, they don't want to approach each other. So I think it's on, like, that's obviously hyperbolic, but I just don't think they're gonna work and mesh together as well. Maybe you might get a few really good combinations, like that Queen and Cracker combination I talked about, but other than that, I don't think it's gonna mesh that well. And I think the Alliance is going to break down when it's probably gonna matter the most. And then at that point, they don't have to worry about them working together anymore. Like, the Alliance is off, you old bag! And then that's when the that forces attack, that's when we really, okay, they're fighting, now it's our best shot, okay, so, let me know. So, So yeah, I think that's most likely what's going to go down. So let me know what you think below about the balance of powers, this alliance, the relationship between Big Mom and Kaido, how that's going to work. Some of the funny interactions maybe between their two crews. I think that would be cool to talk about. And which of the three powers do you personally side with? I side with. Okay, all right. Here's what we're gonna do. All right, are you ready? All right, we're gonna do some Ken here. All right, so, all right, here we go. I'm selecting my item here of choice. Okay, here we go. Rock, paper, scissors. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's rock. You've been crushed. You've been dominated. I simply have not lost. Bye, everybody.